We're all set.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Lit Balm yet once again. And tonight we have an amazing show, including Tina Kane, Wang Ping, Seoyon Kim, and Jacquelyn Song. And you'll be hearing lots more about them as we go. In the meantime, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Jeffrey Cyphers Wright, who received his MFA after studying with Allen Ginsberg. Jeff is best known as a new romantic poet. He's also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. He is the author of 19 books of verse, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. Jeff's poems have appeared in many journals, including the Cafe Review, New American Writing, the Brooklyn Rail, and Posit. His most recent work appears in the anthologies Best American Poetry, New York City Insiders, and Contemporary Surrealist and Magical Realist Poetry, which I'm also in, by the way. Jeff's latest work is a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster, and is out from my own Mad Hat Press. Jeff recently won the Sir Vision James Tate Prize, and he publishes the journal Live Mag out of New York City. What you got for us today, Jeff?
Well, thank you, Mark, my friend. I wanted to mention that a passing of Ivan Argelis, who I never really knew the poet, but he hung out with Neely Cherkowski and Andrew Joran and some people like that. And I wanted to just read a brief passage of his from the translation to Heaven. Like the time in the country by the temple, out of the sky fell like a mirror copulating a message on a paper of water handheld called the translation to heaven, ineffable, so much that one could no longer behold things of this earth in the same dimension. And I wanted to read a poem to go with that from, and I wanted to plug the fabulous book Mark published here, Doppelgangster, Reflections, Self-Portraits in a Funhouse Mirror. And this poem is called Young Glove. So it's like young love. Young glove. Alone in the waiting room, saying adios to a molar going south. December gutters like a candle. The markets test the bottom. I climb down from the wheelhouse reluctantly to take my medicine up to my neck in sunset. The glove is not so young anymore. Ivan Argelis grazes on his talking grave. Did you see the ski jump? Fast, high, straight, true. The new moon forklifts night, giving us all the now time can handle. And I wanted to actually thank Susan Lewis for publishing that poem first, too. And so, yes, Ivan Argelis. Another buddy of his was John Bennett, was a champion of his. And he had a couple of books also from Sagging Meniscus. I think some of you might know them. So it gives me great pleasure now to introduce our super host, Mark Vincennes. Mark Vincennes is an Anglo-Swiss American poet, a fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He's published over 40 books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently, The Pearl Diver of Iramani from White Pine Press, The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars from Lavender Ink, The Mayfly Codes from Spuyten Duyvil, Three Telltale Love Signs, Subpress Collective, Thieves' Canto, Nix's Mate, and just recently, The Visitation novelette from Sir Vision. Forthcoming poetry collections are Spells for the Wicked, Unlikely Books, and No More Animals, Poems, sorry, No More Animal Poems, White Pine Press. Mark's also a prolific translator. He's translated from German, Romanian, and French. He's published 11 books of translation, most recently in Audible Blue Selected Poems, 1963 to 2016, by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist Klaus Murch. And his own work has been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, German, and Icelandic. He is currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincenz is the editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and a publisher also of New American Writing. He's lived all around the world, from Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but now he lives on a farm in rural Western Massachusetts overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, which was the inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are still more leafy brains, North American destroying angels, and trembling phlebia hanging around, and there are bipedal hominids. A lot of wild critters there, Mark. So, Mark, let's see what you got today.
Thanks, Jeff. Actually, those are all mushrooms.
Oh, you fun guy.
I'm a fungi guy. Today, I'm going to read you from my forthcoming book, All the Tricks of Language, a poem called Down in Star Time. The poem's for Yves Bonnefoy, the French poet, and there's a quote in the beginning that originates from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland and is the voice of the dodo bird, who, like someone else we know, is seriously considering another caucus race. So, Down in Star Time. You'd think she'd remembered all of this the first time. If you believe all the questions that arise from above, the red-breasted God Queen stares down in all her mercy. Know that everything fades out too. Even these moments on the prow across the pier. Know that history changes nothing. Everything which is transforming will continue. All those infernal questions, and in your form, one of the living few, yes, you protrude, grazing my shoulder, a leaking light, and the clock hands expand as if they were those of another star time, a single groove on a thin line on a paper-cut moon, a childhood rewind, memories from the deep siesta, a message that is being carried on, the tales of strange creatures like moray eels spinning on their tails, the boundless herring, a storm of mackerel darting through shattered beams of ancient trawlers and fishing vessels, of cargo ships laden with amphorae, olive, honey, and wine, casks of salt or bolts of silk, beeswax and twine, and treasures from the secret cellars of Mycenae, jewels too, or in fact the flesh of wounded spring lamb, a pandemonium of flavors, everything that descended vicariously, and all those trade winds headed south, deep into the backcountry, into the rock beds, and into the feathers of a dodo. See, she is transfixed. She wishes she had the wings to carry her away.
Man, that was like Darwin on the Odyssey.
Kinda.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And now I'm delighted to introduce the first of our features today, who is Tina Kane, and is the founder director of Writers in the Schools in Rhode Island. From 2016 to 2024, she served as Poet Laureate of Rhode Island, where she lives with her husband and 3 children. In Tina's capacity as Poet Laureate, she established her state's first youth poetry ambassador program in partnership with Rhode Island Center for the Book, and brought the Poetry in Motion program from the New York City transit system to Rhode Island statewide buses. Tina is the author of The Fifth Thought, Dear Elena, Letters for Elena Ferrante, Poems with Art by Esther Solondiz, from Skillman Books, Once More with Feeling from Veliz, Body of Work also from Veliz, and Year of the Murder Hornet, just out from Veliz Books in 2022. In 2016, Tina received the Fellowship Merit Award in Poetry from Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. She was also a 2020 Poet Laureate Fellow with the Academy of American Poets. Tina's debut novel in verse for young adults, Alma Press's Play, was released from Penguin Random House in 2021. She's also the creator and curator of the distance reading series Poetry is Bread, and the editor of Poetry is Bread, the anthology, forthcoming from Nirala Press. Her second novel in verse for young readers, Are You Nobody Too, is also coming out from Penguin Random House and will be published this summer. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you all hear me all right? Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be reading with the Youth Poetry Ambassadors for my state. This is our first joint gig together, so it's great. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm actually not going to read from my most recent book, which is called Year of the Murder Hornet. And I think the reason why, well, I'm just going to show you the cover, Year of the Murder Hornet. My oldest son, I have 3 kids. My oldest son is an artist, and he took the photograph that we used for the cover, which won a design award. So I'm very happy about that. But so I love this book, but I'm going to reach back and read a long poem, which is at the center of the book that came before this one, called Body of Work. And I think I'm going to read it because the issues that prompted me to write this long poem are on my mind again. They've been on my mind ever since, but they're on my mind again as we approach another election. I wrote this poem. It's called My American Journal. And if you can see, the word my is in parentheses. And it is a nod to Robert Hayden, the Harlem Renaissance poet's poem, American Journal. And it was partially inspired by an essay by James Baldwin called, now I'm blanking on the name, Nothing Personal. And I love that essay. I was reading it. I decided to return to all of Baldwin's work a few years ago, early on in the Trump presidency, because it seemed to be important and relevant to revisit it all. So when that term started, I was feeling really incensed and depressed by the kind of renewed hatred around immigrants and immigration in our country. And it prompted me to write this long poem, which has to do in part with the Chinese side of my family. I'm half Chinese. But because it's called My American Journal, it also has to do with America. And I put the my in parentheses so that the my would be parenthetical, but so that it could be called American Journal, and in that way would be a quintessential story, but then also My American Journal, which would be unique to me. But I think that those two things can coexist at once, and that is actually what makes America America. So it's called My American Journal. And it's just a long poem, so I'm just going to read the whole poem, and that'll be the only thing I read today. It starts with a short epigraph, a very small poem by the Portuguese poet Antonio Osario. And that poem is called Horse, and it goes like this. A day will come when someone appears grateful, saying, "Come in and sit at our table." My American Journal. My American Journal, catalog of grievances and valentines, condolence archive, store of sudden joy, my continuum. Veritable as the journey my grandma made was long, a road whose song I know almost nothing of. but that the chickens in the mountains had their throats slit, that the soldiers brandished bodies on their swords. My mother told me that the Japanese took everything they know from China, our food, our silk, our tongue. Each iota a stolen etymology stuck in the throat of her history, as chains a distant ant swallowed to save from invaders, her entrails twisting with mineral jade as she died under a stand of white pine. These are the stories I was told to believe. To make my American journal complete, I hypothesized that a British officer in Hong Kong is the father of my mother's brother. How else to explain the silence, the strangeness, and the shame, or requisite papers obtained? How endlessly these people evade, no tree to trace, no leaves to place in rows along the sidewalk. I grasp truth like I cup fog. Whole zones dissipate as soon as I show up, as if the continuous mysteries are me, not for the solving, but quintessential, a cliffhanger. American as any reality show, I grow into myself, mixed product of multitudes. Glorious bastardization, for amber waves of grain and footprints on the moon are particulars portrayed as proof of a manifest stream, which counts me among its vigorous Americans. Everyone journeyed here to make it so. My grandfather, marching down Mott Street midwinter in a plain white tee, defied the cold as he strode several paces ahead of the family, his lips blue, his jaw set tight as grit. They kept a fresh television set unopened in its box under the kitchen table, while the one we watched displayed everything in green, needed pliers to have its channels changed, but it hadn't died, so everything rung within an inch of its life is comfort of a certain kind. Stoicism in a land of plenty is one kind of shrine. Without the candle and the donut on the plate, daily they made space for the dead, crowding out other essentials while protecting the wall by the stove with sheets of tinfoil to guard against oil from her spattering wok. My grandmother kept the enamel of her white rose stove unflecked as a temple floor. Pulled racks from its oven without mitts, I used to wonder if she still had fingerprints. Shrine to my ignorance, this journal of my American. For I am American, vigorous in manifestation, prone to hypothesis and imagination. Terrible with maps, I lack any sense of direction. Often I think my car has been stolen when I step out of the post office into the sun. My eyes screw up in the brightness, only to spot my car down the block where I left it. So many kinds of theft. I get why a woman would swallow a necklace, but not the television in the box. Waste is one thing, want another. Even as I stash half-price shampoo under my sink, always on the verge of running out, is a tendency I keep. So privately, even my husband doesn't see this vestige of poverty. Were we ever that poor? Wasn't there almost always enough of what it means to be from here, the USA, with its pyramids and 3 squares a day? It's okay to dream a little dream of shamans and technology, but the pragmatist in me shuns decadence, metabolizes pride like an outsider, sees hypocrisy in a miniskirt. But I'm all right with 2 sides of a dime, my America, my journal, my thighs. My own mother was married in go-go boots and a veil. So many variables, the frightening energy of being alive and all that immigrant striving. No time to stop until the galaxy shows up. When the lights go down at the Hayden Planetarium, I am 8 and unprepared for the vast celestial possibilities of another realm. Sacred as any home I had known, inexplicable as any tenement or punk hotel of painters my parents put us in. No stranger to violence, the strange violence of children walking with their hands on each other's shoulders, single file as they flee their schools, is still new to some Americans, but not to young Americans. We live just these 20 years and die for 50 more, performing the extremely uphill work that is talking to ourselves as Americans. What justifies my hunger for other ways of life? Hasn't America been mostly good enough to me? Like the 80s, like boyfriends, like luck? Why my grandmother placed a fork and a coke beside my rice bowl. Why she praised my almond eyes, their hint of Occidental. Unfortunate passport, but also worldly, shape of disgrace, which she said men preferred, already implying a darkness, whereas I had heard blondes. My fondness for Marilyn as a child was a shrine to beauty and sadness. A photo of Monroe in glasses reading by a window taped to the wall above my bureau. Because she liked books like me, because neither of us spoke Chinese, because love is a function of catch and release, as every family is a galaxy and every galaxy is others. My mother's love was deep, unsparing as cosmic law, noble and flawed, a supernova of dark matter, spinning light and heat. My whole life, I traipsed the unloved streets of New York, retracing the implosion of our catch and release. To say there's nothing left in Chinatown for me is to revisit its particulars, the heaps of trash on every corner, the rivers of fish blood running into its sewers. I once saw a pair of Napa cabbage propped against a fire hydrant, like a pair of pale jade sentinels. But that package bound for California, stuffed with silk and gold, appeared when I was 10 years old, when my grandparents told me that an uncle had had a baby boy. Light began pouring from the open box as if the power of the gift of being male was an astral happening in a kitchen on Mott Street. I was dizzy from the dazzling rays bouncing off the foil-covered walls, the blinding revelation that my almond eyes were a prize this boy would never need, that being born to a hippie mother from the Midwest still bested being me, the daughter of a daughter and a lo-fi. My dad used to laugh at Paleface and White Devil, whereas I wanted all the variables lined up on my side of the ledger. Never good at math, too often give me half and I am happy. A true American. Here, among the roses and the rot, grows a plot that also raises me, a pen that writes before it dies, a machine-made candy landscape with 2,000 kinds of cereal, plus corn dust to scuff up with the gun in my boots. Proof that I am American is my callousness. I care, but how much do I spare anything with which I am reluctant to part? Possessions are one way to chart a life. Among mine is a nativity scene in which everyone is Chinese. I thought every country had its own Jesus until I was 5. Today, I cherish time, small god of possibilities and poems that think, plus genre of allegiance to American things like running from the past, like cross-pollination and desegregation. So many bees, so many boys dying in the fields and streets. So much beauty and goodwill squandered, as in the gesture of a single rose, botched Valentine. Who knows why so little goes as planned? Why so little planning goes into anything, any more than I can inherit the earth can America be my father. Like money banked beneath a mattress, I hoard memories. Half the time, they're not even mine. We are alike in this way. Like the man who lost his wife driving home from a party when a horse crashed through their windshield, killed her dead, and left him unharmed with his hat still on his head. That man was a father, your father and mine, and the woman your mother and your sister. Do you get where I'm going with this? Again, with the deer and our collective memory of apples, a common dream of lightning, and the phantom family I've lost, just as my husband's long ago hair catches air when he rolls down the window, does my every move tingle with activated absence. Yes, and the broken simile of it is my imagination that will not put the horse back in the stable or hair back on the head, that moves not to fix the plan. For there are answers, but not a lot of questions, any more than I am made of what I am afraid of. And you are too. So get this, the truth is of no consequence. Personal mythology, that most American language of anguish and anxiety, lacks privacy, as lost in art as fireflies in a mason jar, as lucidity itself. That we quit hoarding and collect ourselves and find other kinds of conservation, disrupt no language with pain. that we reclaim permission to dream a dream dreamy and permissive as America, enchanted as land revised over time, rooted in lack like every aspiration seeks power to pressure a form. How the storm left every twig on every branch encased in a layer of ice. How nature entered my life. Snow melting in the green mountains makes a rushing sound. How my father recounted this same scene standing on the corner of Church Street. I couldn't explain that I wasn't ready for the snow or for anything else, or how now I am almost ready for everything. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you, Tina. Wonderful. And next we hear from Seoyon Kim, who is a junior at the Wheeler School and a visual artist, writer, and musician. Seoyon's work tends to deal with the wacky and the bizarre, and her poems are always true even when they're not. Her work has been recognized by the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers, the Jacquelyn Potter Young Poets Competition, and many more. Welcome, Seoyon.
Thank you so much. Sorry if I sniffle a bit, it's allergy season. I'll be reading a couple poems. The first one is in a grid format, so I'll read the column title and the row title before I read every section. And it's based off a traditional Korean folk children's story about a frog that does the opposite of everything his mom tells him to do. And when his mom realizes that she's going to die, she asks him to bury her by the river so that he'll disobey her and bury her somewhere high and dry instead. But he's so overtaken by grief that he does as she says for the first time in his life, and she gets washed away the next time it rains. And it was a very horrifying story to me when I was little, and stuck with me. So that's what inspired this poem. It's titled Bedtime Stories for Little Curses. My mother, full-time jobs. My mother had wanted me to become a railroad conductor when I grew up. Look at that, she said when I was born. My father had dutifully looked. Look at that, she repeated, taking me from the doctor and struggling into an upright position. A railroad conductor had saved her life once when she was a child. She had been standing too close to the tracks, and a stout man, red in the face, yelled at her to get away from there. That is the face of a railroad conductor. My mother, the snow had hid the train tracks. Unfortunately, my passion lay in chiropractic, and thus I joined a long and illustrious history of physical therapists, osteopaths, chiropractors, and Turkish bath masseurs. I renamed myself after a famous masseur whose name I read in the newspaper of a woman sitting across from me. He had died in an accident on the Trans-Siberian. The snow had covered the tracks with its lovely whiteness, he told the witness as she crouched by the red stain upon the landscape, and he had not realized they were there until there was no longer any time for regrets. My mother, bedside goodbyes. I could not sleep one night, so I asked my mother for a ghost story, and she told me she forgave me. Her creativity had always been lacking. She asked me to try, for her, full-time jobs. The chiropractic tables looked like colorful pill bugs, curled up in varying degrees. They started at $5,300. I took a part-time job at a nearby train station to pay for it. My mother wept tears of joy. She asked me to try, for her. The snow had hid the train tracks. The woman came to me 7 nights in a row. She knocked on the door to my clinic as I was about to close, claimed that she had come from very far away. I can't sleep, she said, and lied down on my chiropractic table. I can't help you, I said, and she looked at me and I looked at her like some kind of dreadful collision in the making, and I told her to get the fuck out. Leave it for the ghosts, full-time jobs. My hands speak for me because every horrible word that falls from my lips is a curse. I had believed haunting to be a more beautiful description, but a curse is a curse all the same, and the living do not haunt. Leave it for the ghosts. The snow had hid the train tracks. The woman came to me in a dream 7 nights in a row. She held my hands in hers, said, "Did you know? I think we could be happy together. and I found I could not say anything in reply. I told her that my mother had wanted me to be a train conductor, and she looked at me with a fleeting disappointment that passed me by like headlights outside my bedroom window. Leave it for the ghosts. Bedside goodbyes. I got a parking ticket once. My mother said I should have taken the train, and we both looked out the window at the same time. Snow fell in the distance, but it was not here, not yet. My mother asked to be buried by the railroad tracks where she had almost died. She is buried behind my clinic instead. I stand in the tall grass and twist my hips and crack my joints and think, now this is haunting. The next poem I'm reading is prose poem titled Jump into Robert's Lake, in which the drops of rain racing down the car windshield are right about everything in this world again. I am 40 minutes out from Revelation when God tells me that there aren't enough trees in the garden. So after dinner, I leave the dishes where they are and go outside to stand on the patio. The sun is setting in all the wrong ways, casting careless shadows all over, and they crowd against my toes as if they would gladly devour the spot I stand on if I weren't there. And all I can see in the garden is the waxy shine of cherry tomatoes twinkling in the dark, and I think of them roasted, wrinkly, shifting under the broad of my fork until they splatter orange and seeds over the plates. God, I say, just as carelessly, I think there are enough trees. And when I tell him this, he tells me to look again, but I don't really want to, so I turn my head this way and that as if I'm looking. I'm really thinking about Beth instead and what she said to me over dinner while handing me the mashed potatoes, and I'm thinking how I wish she had never said anything. And while I'm thinking this, I imagine my revenge. Imagine that I would, this very instant, leap back inside across the dinner table and cut off her tongue. But things don't work like that, I have found. Things never end up quite the way they should, exactly. I consider this for a while a little mournful, and then finally I say God and wait for his attention. Then I say, I looked again like you told me to. I think there are enough trees. And there's a long pause and he says, are you sure? And I say, I'm sure. And he says, all in a rush, fine, like whatever, forget I said anything. I don't care anyways. I step down to the grass, looking beyond to the neighbor's lawn, and maybe take a few steps forward. Because when I turn back, Beth is there behind me, like a bud in the grass. I guess God says something to her too, because she goes inside and comes back out with a seed. Or maybe it was a pack of seeds, bursting cherry tomatoes beneath my fork, or a sapling, or maybe she was actually holding one of those 1,000-year-old trees like they have down in the middle of the desert, all hunched over itself in roughed up bark, and you could never tell it was 1,000 years old. And wouldn't it be so much nicer to be like one of those tall and straight trees they have out in California that grow right into the sky? I saw a picture once where a class of little kids stretched all of their arms around the base of the trunk, and they still couldn't fit all the way around. Those in search of a miracle now go west. It has been this way. Beth sits down in the middle of the green, breathing a little heavy, or maybe it's just the wind I hear, the anticipation of it. Her hands are dry, like they're dusty, a white film of dust over her palms. She doesn't say anything until she does, and she speaks as if she has, in this moment, understood something I have not. Says, you should have listened, stubborn thing. He was right. There aren't enough trees in the garden. And again, I wish she never opened her mouth. She stands up and dusts her jeans, even though the wet patches from the wet grass from the wet sky remain. On her thighs, on her back pockets, only streak upon denim. And her dry hands make a sound like fallen leaves as they pass over the fabric. Little drops of wetness on her palms, dispel the dust. Little pockmarks of pink skin, younger. Cold rain falling from a warm sky. The tree drinks from the thundering hollow above and convulses round and round itself in a slow winding ecstasy, and God's pealing laughter leaps around the garden, claps its hands. Beth flees like a small dog back into the house, maybe just spooked, turns in the doorway and peers into the dusk. The sighs of life quivering in her palms, unburdened she. I think this time, like always, she may be right. So remind me of all I have lost. See how every night the small dogs of the world return home. Sometimes I think they won't make it, but I find they always do. Thank you. Next poem I'm reading is titled Suburban Birds. Jay dreams of creation every night and chases the wild turkey that roam the neighborhood lawns by day. I ask her what she's doing, and she asked me if I've ever seen where a turkey goes to sleep. She fashions herself to be some sort of Icarus, a gleam of incandescent brilliance doomed to a tragic, passionate ending in the watery depths. She's a romantic and I am not, so I tell her that she sounds stupid, and that she might as well be Theseus' father instead, the fool who threw himself into the sea in premature grief. Jay counters that he, Theseus' father, got a sea named after him, and I throw my hands up and tell her she can go live with the turkeys for all I care. I have a math test tomorrow. The turkeys, wild, leave dark prints in the morning dew of the grass they meander during the mornings as the neighborhood stirs from its sleep, fitful. Suburbia dreams its turkey dreams, and Jay wakes up early to shadow them, the wild turkey that walked through my neighborhood. She invites me once to follow the turkeys, and I say no. I have a math test tomorrow and I haven't studied yet. Miss Gonzalez doesn't give extra credit. And I wonder sometimes what she does when she stalks the turkeys. 20 of them, or more, taking a left on Howell Street across the lawn of the house with the pink door. But I am not curious enough to wake up early. 6:30, an hour before the bus comes, the turkeys leave footprints all over my dreams. To accompany her, though I am sure Jade probably tells them all sorts of stories about me. They are wild and full of germs, so I watch them from the window, as she trails them close behind. My mom is in a rush one morning when the turkeys are crossing the street. Jay tells me they make this crossing 4 times every morning without fail. And when she, my mom, sees a gap in the stream of feathers, ash gray and full of germs, don't pick up that feather they left behind. She hits the gas. We're not going to make it. And the turkeys, head full of Jay's stories, are smart enough not to get hit, but not enough to understand we're only passing through, and they break into a panic sprint alongside the car. Turkey reflection on the blue Chevy doors to outflank her, and when we finally crown from the sea of turkeys, I look back at them, and they stand devastatingly still, the road dividing the flock suddenly unsurmountable. I report to Jay that the turkeys in our neighborhood, they are locked in a tumultuous relationship, the neighborhood and the turkeys, are stupid, and it shouldn't matter where they sleep at night. Fitful dreams. And Jay repeats her Icarus spiel, incandescent, brilliant, bright, bright sun, and that she can't help it. She has to see where the turkeys go when the world is quiet just once. That night, I sit at the window and think of Jay, incandescent, brilliant, bright, bright, in the dark, and I imagine Icarus falling into a wine dark sea. His back hits the surface like a concrete wall, and the ocean folds around him silently, broken bones and all, and envelops him in a deep and watery embrace, and I can love him in the way the sun, incandescent, brilliant, bright, bright, cannot. And the next morning, I wake up early and find Jay standing in a waist-high river of Turkey. And I look at her, and she looks at me, and everything is incandescent, brilliant, bright, bright. Thank you. And I'll be reading one more shorter poem. It's titled All Her Things Have Gone Far Away. When God wanted an off-white colonial in the suburbs, he got a farmhouse just at the edge of bumfuck nowhere, siding as white as the blinding sun. And when God wanted a sealed cedar deck with a matching patio furniture set, his mama told him to invest in a sunroom instead. Not us though, 'cause if my girl wants it, by God, she'll get it. No kidding. It's true, I say. If my girl wants to tear the whole house up, then she absolutely must do so. And if my girl wants a house fire just to watch it glow, then she must have that too. Raggedy teeth. Ash on my tongue and it tastes like nothing. Mouth all dried up, I can't even spit. Weebies on the couch. It's what God wanted. Thank you.
Amazing, Seoyon. Fantastic. I'm pretty sure you have a big career ahead of you.
Thank you so much.
And next we hear from Jacquelyn Song, who is a senior at the Wheeler School, who enjoys speculative prose and experimental poetry. Jacquelyn is the editor-in-chief of the Spoken Airy Literary Voices, a multi-medalist for the Scholastic Award and Writing Awards, and the current Deputy Poetry Ambassador of Rhode Island. Jacquelyn's poems deal with themes such as femininity, interpersonal connection, and the Asian American experience, aiming to explore language as a form of musical auditory expression. Welcome, Jacquelyn.
Thank you. Oh, Sion, that was really beautiful. Thank you for reading. Okay, so I'm starting with a few brief poems from a collection I wrote called Amorish, which essentially tries to explore love like the ancient Greeks. And so the first one is called Motion Sickness, Ludus. Light clouds and carnivals, cotton tufts caught between lips, stuffing silence, sweet nothings. We don't hold hands, yet there's a tug between elbows, a bend of brows, a how about now, whispered sleeves, hearts peeking free in the breeze. The world tosses and turns, we surrender our shoes, ready, unsteady, tilted, stilted, off kilter. The world rolls and rises, thoughts spooled on antsy fingers, twirling handbars, stinging cheeks. We reach for haze, sift through illusions, high within thralls, for doesn't it all make you glow, or gag, or gasp? Elastic and plastic, blast it, fantastic, we're pithy and pretty, so sick and giddy to fall. Next one is called Norm, Pragma. I long to write a love poem for Norm. We met at 24, 2 years into my master's. He'll be a doctor, talker, just right nice. He'll scrape the steamer, scooping rice. We'll date downtown, a dingy place with ceiling fans, fish tanks, Google Translate, and sometimes he'll surprise, pitch perfect Chinese, but not too perfect. He'll never beat me. 2 years later, we'll initial papers, no crowds. He won't say it aloud, but he'll wish I picked a dress, and we'll circle around plaints and pleasantries. Suburbia will find a flat and a garden. I'll fix the kitchen, do the dishes, drive the kids to school, and I'll file taxes. Always wanted to try, prune daisies, trim maybes, take trash outside, and just like that, years will fly. Driveways, snow days, skates in the park, vacations to Europe in early mid-March, decades of dad, mornings of mom, stifled silence, children gone, 2-story house, Friday nights out, upper middle pay stubs of existential doubt, righteous, viceless crisis, 9-to-5 gripes, and fights, and damn my wife, and burnt out brunches and Yankee candlelight, and when I wither, Norm still dithers till I die. Next one is called Glove, Velosha. Fabric doesn't flate, but suffocates, stretching across flesh you should have loved. Here's love in a glove, distrust wrapped in a fist for the ripping. Sometimes I wonder how my thumbs would have looked, and if I could wave without hiding in my sleeves. My mind would have woven a masterpiece if it didn't snag on intrusions, sink beneath nail beds, soak them bloody, suck them clean. I long to become perfection, yet I can't be sculptor and muse, grasp the girl in the marble before she's abused, feel her in chisels, chipping away the little bits until they've crumbled, no reprieve, no epiphany. It stings in a child's shell, willing your flesh to fester, digging dignity from disgust, but I'll take it, make it. For now, the glove fits. The last one is called Sidewalking, Philia. Autumn isn't red, but unwritten. Folded fable, far-flung, free-falling, hazy hues cast in childhood. We're walking, talking, winding, never minding. Found a book, learned to cook. New mural round east, took a look. No risks, no ellipses, no silence to face. You step in my spaces, I know all the places you do. Why can't we always be pieces? Why can't ease always be what pleases? Let me fall for escape, tuck you between the pages, spread the red when we're far away, script the same old stories. I know we'd fit, we'd drift, we'd come to admit the brief grief of leaves makes perfect. But friend, when it falls, would you give me a call? I'll wait for it. Thank you. And now I'll start on sort of independent poems. This one is called Drizzle. It deals with anxiety, I suppose. Drizzle. I stand in the rain, let thick drops split cross, bridge, nose, acrid, traffic, smoke pollution, light dilution, drowned revolution, wheels on cement, leave a dent or a hole when it rolls back around, too fast for me. Arms out, I skip and trip and slip, diving through hands and handles, nylon shrouds, empty crowds, brow up tip to clouds, how? How does sky let it out? When could I weep when I wanted away from prying eyes? When did I lose my right to cry? Here, the roar quiets, quips and snips, tells and turns, don't see me, can't leave me. Puddles muddle the slate and ripple my face, curtains cut on canopies, slosh down one stilted side, dousing me clean. Her moments don't recoil from doubts or shouts, and perhaps it's cathartic to dip without downing, drip without drowning, swim yet breathe, but they'll never believe in droplets. You're wet, they claim, holding the door, you're soaking the floor. Really, there's more out there than you. Backbench, rain spent, repent, step in, they're waiting with towels and scowls. You're okay, they pry. I sigh, no reason to cry, so I smile instead, and in my head, rain crashes on and off. And the next poem is called Song of Ye. It's about my grandfather. Ye means paternal grandfather in Mandarin Chinese. And it's structured sort of like a sheet of music, so every section has a different Italian motif that goes with it. So, Song of Ye. Adagio. Ye is in mourning, the egg yolk rise, whispered hours, fire towers, wildflowers. Gliding through the window, dew drops your hair, blinks you blue with deja vu. Wake up, he demands, slipping through hands lathered in lilting light. Out the door, too fast, we're down the grave path, he's gone. What was he at like? Ask aloud, Daddy's beetle shell eyes bury in flesh, he says. Yeah, was big back then. Fit 5 eggs in a palm, eggs, yes, precious gold. One had only what one could hold, too small. I never reached the bowl, so yeah, gave me his. Morning, you bite white, dip sauce, sip gold. He tastes like summer, warm, savory. Andante. He is in the grass, trickling, tickling, nipping at heels there. Stop, spread the carpet, rest forehead to fabric. He's rubbing brow in yesteryear's ash, knees raw, grass straw, moments woven, never shared. Fist stitches, listen, tell him you're well. Slice him an orange, a smile, and he might humor you. What do you remember, you venture? Sister misses, reminisces. We chased ducks by the shore before they wrapped it in plastic. Stick poles through its heart, skipping stones, pitter-patter, flocks scattered. He took his bamboo rod, one by one, counted seconds, in still pond, no rush, with ducks. There's always time. Don't take yours. Confolco. Yaya's incandescent, strike a match, he blazes, breaths blackening, calligraphy, currency, capital he never had in life. Toss more, he'll find it, beyond, in the void, the silence we avoid. If you draw smoke, regrets, cigarettes into your chest, hold him till he suffocates. Will he burn again through you? Did he love me? Auntie's wilting, flower dress. Daddy hides his eyes, won't let you see him. Yaya taught him that too. Sister tumbles to mound, ground down, searches the dirt, meets his eyes. Or was he in the skies? Stars, stones, bricks, her bones, marrows, and sparrows, arrows pointing here. Yaya's pouring down your face. Trace the dust, kindling for despair. You say he's there. Where? He's not in me. I'm empty. Too young, foolish, scared. Blink once, he's reaching out with Daddy's arms, but you don't speak Chinese. Flee, blink twice, he's hooked to tubes. Book the flight, but he's encased in clay, and you can't blink back tears with no tears to cry. Dolce. Your Yaya. On roof he built, mud and silt, fingers linger, ridges between blocks. Search and stroke, hurdle, hope, and you might recall his touch. Beyond, ducks peck wanders, order, an orchard, highway and hills, terraces, pluck cicadas, fresh from bark, chop and char, tasting tar and tilapia. Far above, Yaya's crunching their Yayas, till they crack apart too. Below, Daddy flits through derelict yard, dusting memories, dazzing dreams on childhood altars, well waters, drinking dust as Yaya fill your lungs. Thrust stones and puddles, ripples your eyes, to his depths resurface, repurpose the second-hand tongue, clenched teeth, closed throat. You gave it to Daddy, but you never give it back. Do you hear him? Does it matter? If Ye is missing, if you lose him, time's the thief. Loss isn't grief. You've nothing to cry, cry for nothing. Fill him with tears, taste him, touch him, relive and revive, hear him, and he's here. You're here. Here. And I have one final poem called Second Worlds. It's inspired by a summer trip I took to Quito with some of my classmates. Second World. In Quito, there's a grave, sediment, dent, and the remnants, wisping grass and floral ash, volcanoes, dormant flame, gasping, cracking as I step upon it, trek up, uprooted eucalyptus brambles. The guide, clicking tongue, glances back at crowd, American proud, browned in the bite of light. She says, when spring arrives, floodwaters rise, rain washes mountainsides away. The crowd titters, clicks pictures, starts up parched path. I wait. Consider carnations crushed under footfall, entrapped, embraced, people pushed into pumice, inhaling smoke, suffocation in the next inundation. Should I pray? Who knows? How long it's waited, if it's empty, pressed to dust, if the one beneath still bears a name, or if all has crumbled, slipped every hand, sifting dirt atop listless features, breathing these blooms for death. I don't like peering, dangling my phone towards the old women on the roadside, weaving alpaca carvings of deities fried and dried delicacies sting the succulent air, linger, and throat chokes me on the tropics. Eyes bury in faces cochineal pace, ground beneath knuckles, swathing each loom, so bright, bright in vein up here for camera bites, dollars scrunched to chest, crushed beetles, pale conquerors, sickly green and earthen palms, calloused, stone and flame and gaping mountain graves. They remind me of home, my father's, not mine, the rolling countryside at the river mouth, China. Peddlers scraping fish guts by the bus stop selling 5 yuan a piece. Perhaps if I'd stayed, I'd dry like them, strip fish of a girl, twirl, wheel a bike to market, snatch fabric skeins past pots, joss, pastel peaches, for isn't fate to be born a peach and dry with dawn and lie and dust? Daddy says in my blood I'm a farm girl. Back home, they're all farm girls, and if I was one, I wouldn't be here. Tourist tees, tattered jeans, hair chopped, too curt for breeze, cleansed in chemicals head to toe, as though my blood fears the mosquitoes, my flesh the light, my head the height. For am I not made of toil and tragedy? Mud smoothed into bricks, clustered at hearth, smoke floods out nostrils, shot through the heart, skipping down rivers, walk ducks down the street, pluck cicadas from brambles, an evening treat. I choke down each grain in my bowl, knowing its toll, knowing the pain, the gain, the fortune ordained, yet here I am, standing alone, a circle of stone, similar to home, grandmother's tome, crying. Sometimes I dream I'm her, the girl who stayed, wandering peach groves till peach leaves her cheeks, flame leaves her lungs, flowers wreathe her name, floods claim and maim, slave to shifting seasons, nature's reasons, fish guts, cameras, buses and boats, plastic and smoke, seeping through dirt, the dearth. Yet I'm here, sitting, thinking thoughts that this could have been me, correct me, I sometimes believe, couldn't conceive. Who chooses? There in the land of tourist teas, green men, flicks and flashes, planes and passes, vacations to sprawling second worlds. Why am I here? Not with grandmother, nor grandfather, nor mother, nor father, nor generations past, not starving and mourning, stuck in snowfall, scraping flesh from my knees. The land of the free, I made it out before I was born, torn. I look back, steal warmth without parching, eat peaches before rot, take traces of another life and tell them what I'm not. In Shueiko, there's a grave. I yearned for flowers, yet all I brought was a little paper man, so I lit him a flame, prayed in shame, departing, when nothing remained. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacquelyn. What a rhythm you have. Amazing. Now we are honored and delighted to receive Wang Ping, who was born in Shanghai and earned her BA in Beijing University, PhD at NYU, MD at AAAOM, Traditional Chinese Medicine. Wang Ping's books of poetry and prose include The River Within, My Name is Immigrant, Life of Miracles Along Yangtze and Mississippi, among many others. Ping is the recipient of an NEA, Bush Lannon McKnight Fellowships, AWP MN, Eugene Caden Book Award, and many others. She was a featured poet and storyteller at New York Times, NBS, NPR, The Moth, Snap Judgment, Boston String Quartet, Cape Symphony, and many, many other places. She's director of Kinship of Rivers Project. I think your last thing was in New Orleans, right? That little movie I saw.
Yep.
And Ping's also a photographer, dancer, and installation artist. Her multimedia installations have been shown at colleges, galleries, museums, river confluences, and mountains around the world. Ping is the Emerita Professor of Poetry at Macalester College. You can find her on www.wangpingoneword.com. Welcome, Ping.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. Such a pleasure with a bunch of great poets and musicians. Yeah, your poetry really has flows like music. And so today I inviting Jeffrey, the guitarist, to play, accompany me. So I wonder, you want to play a few notes, see if everyone can hear? Okay, great.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to read from The River Within. I'll read 4 poems from this. The last one will be both English and Chinese. My Mississippi. In the beginning, there's a berry, monument, wild and good rice in water, a harvest for bugs, fish, birds, before men, before there was a gorge plowed by river water, the forgotten river, remembered by black soil and 10,000 lakes. Its glacial water pushing Minnehaha Fall backwards through the Twin Cities, my home on the cliff. Watching two rivers murmur, converge, watching you freeze overnight, misty clouds galloping, white buffaloes into my dreams. On your icy skin, along your curving spine, trees, deer, skiers, sturgeons, turtles, your pulse under whiteout swamps, sandbars. When you open your mouth in spring, I come running with my red boat and white wings. I glide and push my 2,000 prayers along your temple of dawn and dusk through wind and heat, till the wheel spins green past blue, orange, red, till you show your true color, blood from the artery of the purple prairie, from the heart of the turtle island, and I become who I am, a red blood cell, a fish, a fox, a leaf, returning the big river, my Mississippi and Yangtze. Thank you. Next one is Confession of a Ruby Throat. It's inspired the poem I wrote. I wrote this poem after I read Nietzsche's poem, and he had a big essay on the Chinese character 小心 means careful. Confession of a Ruby Throat. In China, 小心 is for caution. The heart gets smaller with each step of hesitation. The shell of Xin shrunken with fear. 小心, a shriveled heart spilling blood. 小心, blue whale's car-sized heart pumping 10 tons of blood through its 200 tons body. Yet the heart champion belongs to us, beating 1,200 per minute in our chest, a body lighter than 10 pinto beans, wings and tails screeching with joy as we dive for our beloved, neon feathers lighting the air. There's no other way to love. Be careful, cries the mother to her child, tumbling forward, pulling ropes tied to his waist. 小心, to become small and smaller with each step. How does a fledgling enter the sky with a fearful heart? How do we fly without tumbling first, head to the earth? The monster rumbles in lower fields, his lava breath melting hesitant feet along the paths. How do we live without knowing the taste of dying? Each night, our heart slows to a halt, our being lighter than a penny, half filled with sugar, the other half offered to the night's Lord. Oh, how can we have regrets to die each night for tomorrow's feast, an orgy of light and nectar? There's no other way to live, even if it means forever on the edge of starving, to dive into 1,500 flowers daily, to cross the gulf with a day's food, to be alive breathlessly, wings beating 200 a second, heart firing 600 a minute at rest, and doubling for a flight. There's no other way to cross from Mexico to Alaska. Our 2-gram body full with nectar. The rest is our heart, enormous, thrown into the wind, into the unknown. 小心, courage is not an absence of fear. The secret lies in our willingness to live, hours away from death, each night in torpor, losing half of our being to fall out of the sky as we fly across seas and deserts, uttering cries, half human, half beast. So next one is the Meridian Gate. I spent 10 years studying Chinese medicine to save my own life, and I did. And so, yeah, I was dying from stress and all my sports injuries, and also Lyme disease. I finally figured out why I'm just I'm just in pain and can barely move and just deep depression. And then finally, I don't know what's, I finally I figured out what's wrong with me. So yeah, I was doing acupuncture every day, sometimes twice a week to ease the pain. And my one day, the doctor actually she put smoke and herbs on the needles, the end of the needle, then she left the room. Then my back was on fire pretty soon. So it was pretty funny scene. So I thought, all right, I'm going to write a poem about the meridians. It's called The Meridian Gate. On my father's grave, a shaggy mane lifts her skirt. A noonday demon is born from yesterday's love. Needle between the fourth ribs, Tanzhong, the upper ocean of breath between breasts. Children of the moon, roots tangled in the other world. I've wrestled with a line, now I marvel at mustard seeds. Bean fingers curling into the sun, needle at Bai Hui, 100 confluences at the apex of skull. The mind spins a fountain of fire from Buddha's tear, a white terror. If you fold our wings and listen, we may taste the honey in our bread. From asphalt, a fiddlehead opens its green fist, a swirling path to the moon, a pearl in the hollow of grief. Breath in Dantian, thunder from good earth, a bridge to forgive, forgiven. When night comes, we go to the woods and listen to the sounds of stars, traveling 200 billion light years to touch us. The last one is one of the sonnets from my sonnet crown. And I'm sure you're all poets, you know what sonnet crown is. So 15 total. This one is about a cycad fossil stone, agate. And it's really, really beautiful. It's a rare thing. I visited, it's a gift from Norwegian veteran. He was the last surviving soldier from World War II. And he was one of the Norwegians who, actually from America, who fight by skiing downhill to attack Germany. So he's quite a legend. When he saw me, he said, come over here. And he sit on my lap, and I just laughed. He was in his diaper. He's like close to 100 years old, and he still has the spark to live, right? Enjoy life. And I sat next to him and we chatted for an hour. And then when I said goodbye, he took out this treasure, the cycad fossil, and gave me as a present. He's an agate rock hunter, and so he has many treasures, and this is his most precious stone, and I have it. And I wrote a poem for him and presented to him. It's called Cycad, a sonnet puzzle. Let river move us without wants or needs. Let cycads carry their fruit in naked seeds. No flower to adorn our hearts, roots pulling food from sandstones. What magic in your seed? White flesh burns the nerves of the ignorant. What desire or love wedged in your cold seed? Along colored veins, age of cycads, rings of truth. In your dried palm, an open seed, naked to sun and moon. Herbamore's teeth carry you across the chasm. In the crown, a seed running from pole to pole. The sea was one body unhinged, spewing lava into your seed. You are not shadows from the Permian of China. Look at this beauty, so simple, in your agate seed. 铁树，让河带我们漂流，一无所求。让铁树的化石打开赤裸的种子，没有花朵装饰你的心房，只有根从沙里吸取养分。是什么魔术注入你的种子，让饱满的果实最能灼烧无知者的神经？欲望和挚爱深深地嵌入菠萝庄的种子，来自二叠纪的铁树，沿着叶脉圈圈缠绕，历史在你的手心绽放，干枯的种子袒露在阳光下，恐龙把你含在口里，穿行地球的板块，花冠上唯一的种子从南极跋涉到北极，四海本是一体汪洋，古老的岩浆喷入你的种子，你硕长的阴影伸过二叠纪盆地，美得如此秀丽明透，玛瑙的种子。Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you, everyone.
Yay. So profound.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I wonder if you can hear the musicality of Chinese poetry. I used the old version of sonnet combined. I turned it into a ghazal, and with the repeated word seed, right? And I think it's really perfect for the Chinese version for this poem, because Chinese traditional poems are very rhymed, and not just at the end, but also within, like if it's a couplet, right? And the image and the sound, the first line and second line have to match. So it's quite difficult to do. And but somehow, if this is like, if poetry is your lifetime passion and a profession, and like breathing, right? And then somehow those Chinese poets, they can like write out their best poems after they get drunk, after party. They just have like, they set the time, like the incense burning, right? And then or 7 steps, right? Then you have to write a poem. And some of the best poems actually came out of those very limited time, and they have to be like ping, ping, ping. The musicality is already embedded in Chinese language, right? Ezra Pound in his Chinese character as a medium to poetry, talked about the image, right? The image, the characters of Chinese language, but because he didn't know the other most important characteristics of Chinese character is musicality, right? Because it's a tonal language. So music is embedded in Chinese language, So yeah, it's very natural. I think the Spanish and Italian has that advantage too, because it's like, especially Italian, right? It's also like mono sounds. Almost every word ends with the vowel, which is very beneficial it's advantage to write, to sing and to recite poetry.
Let the river flow.
Say it again.
Let the river flow.
Yes, without need or want, right?
There you go. Oh God, that's so good, right?
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Ping. That was great.
thank you.
And well, of course, thank you, Tina. Thank you, Seoyon and Jacquelyn
Thank
as
you.
well. Fantastic show. Thank you so much. I'm now going to introduce our technical director at Lit Balm, John Wessick, who's a regional editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual. He published hundreds of poems and stories in journals such as the Atlanta Review, Berkeley Fiction Review, I-70 Review, Lovescroft's Chronicle, Patterson Literary Review, Pyrene's Fountain, and many more. His most recent books are The Shaman in the Library and The Prague Deception. Let's hear from you.
Thank you, Mark. This is called Bowing at Chogyesaw. Seoul, Lunar New Year's Day. Hundreds crowd the main hall to face the multitude of Buddhas painted on the wall of heroes. Strings of beads and twine, fingers, brown cotton mats insulate shoeless feet from cold linoleum and cushion bowing bodies. Worshippers kneel, touch foreheads to floor, and rise only to lay themselves flat again and again. I sit in the corner, my back straight with reluctance. Would I, a foreigner, create a spectacle? In my hotel room the next morning, I realize the truth is all around, only I choose not to see. I've known this all along. I make 3 prostrations on the plush gold carpet, using my body to place truth above selfish desires. Oops, wrong direction. I meant to face the temple 3 bows north. Might as well take off the other points of the compass. The words of a tour guide come back to me. We believe in 5 directions, not just 4. I pause, then bow to the center.
Always good to bow to the center. So just to let you know, in 2 weeks we have another feature with Donald Wellman, Buck Downs, Jose Padua, and Erica Miriam Fabry. We're looking forward to that. And the week after that, actually, we have a different kind of show, all UK poets, Scotland, Wales, and England. There might be an Irish person in there, but I don't think so. No, we're going to do a separate Irish show. That actually takes place 1 hour earlier than normal because for the Brits, it's pretty late. Thank you so much again for this show. And I'm going to hand over the mic to my dear friend, Jeffrey C. Wright, who's going to guide us through the open mic session of this tour.
Mark, thank you so much, my brother. So yeah, what a great lineup today. You pull these amazing people. Let's hear it for Wheeler, man. All right. So yeah, we have like, I think 5 readers or 4. And let's start off with Linda. And Linda, can you say your name for us? Your last name? Is Linda still here? Where is Linda? Hold on.
You need to unmute, Linda.
All right, Linda Waldika, and I live in the same town as Mark. It's really hidden. We don't tell anybody where it is, just barely. Okay, this is real new. It's probably needs more editing, but I like to read it for an audience, you know, even if it's new. Perception of clouds. Clouds coalesce, connect like a freight train until the sun's light dims into dusk, warm air cools. My reflection in the vernal pool has faded. Is it clouds that are to blame, or an onset of chilly gloom? Memories once fleeting now return, and evolution of sadness overcomes the heart like a derangement. Like when a flower or tree are uprooted, their innocence is wasted. It's as if the earth's soil feels the wrenching pain. A transition reveals a flow of sunlight, grace. No lost love or salty tears ever shed went to waste. Instead, the clouds scatter, dissipate like rain. Warmth returns like a rejuvenating meditation song. A celebration of today wanes into darker hours. Bats, crickets, nocturnal beasts are aroused while fireflies glow. A rabbit scurries down his hole. Full moon's awareness is Earth's brilliant globe. Companion stars intensify like beacons of hope. Thank you.
All right, Linda, thank you. Beacons of Hope, we like that. No, I meant to say actually companion stars. All right. So now we're going to have, and who I just saw read last week, the wonderful Lydia Cortez.
Thank you, Jeffrito. And you actually heard this last week at the gallery. And this is for Mother's Day. So I'm going to read it in Spanish first, and then I'll do the translation. Trapo de hombre. Parece mentira, mija, después de toda esa educación, ¿quién pensaba que tú, hija mía, te ibas a meter con tal mal ejemplo? Te iba a arrastrar en el fango. Te ibas a ir buscando problemas con tal malcriado y tan feo también. No tal caracteracho que ni a la mai que lo parió lo soporta. Ay, Dios mío, nena. ¿Y por qué fue eso? ¿Buscando venganza? ¿Y qué yo te hice? ¿Ah? ¿Por qué fuiste a sacar de algún zafacón ese trapo de hombre? Translation. Raggedy ass man. It's a shame, girl. After all that studying, all those degrees, who would think that you, daughter dearie, that you would let yourself fall, get into it with such an example, that you would drag yourself through the mud, that you'd go looking for such precious problems with such a maleducado, and so homely too. Not even his mother who bore him can stomach him. And why? Do you owe me such vengeance? What did I do? Ay, Dios mío, my girl. Why did you go looking in that zafacón for that raggedy ass man? Thank you.
Oh, Lydia Cortez. Hey, what is an el fango mean?
Fango means the mud. Why did you go dragging yourself in the mud? Porque fuiste arrastrándote en el fango.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I'll try to do that. I'll say you recommended it when I get there. Lydia Cortez. All right. And I think we have two more. I'm hoping that we have Miss formerly known as Cimarron, Cindy Hockman. What you got today, Cindy?
Formerly known as. I'm gonna go out of character because usually I read more light stuff, but tomorrow is Mother's Day, and I lost my mom in June, and she was quite an amazing lady. She made it to 103, 2 months shy of 104. She was also amazing because she was my stepmother and married my father when I was 9 and raised me like her own. And I miss her. And I haven't really been able to write a lot of poems about her, but I did write this one. It's called Mama. Mama, your eternal love for me emanates throughout this dolorous house, burns through my clumsy breaths, burns through my sad clothes. Mama, I've strewn your handwritten notes full of pep talks, full of God bless yous, full of perennial balm throughout this desolate house. But the candle I burn for you refuses to quell my ceaseless keening. Mama, my eternal love for you emanates throughout this darkened house, burns through my cumbersome breaths, burns through the sad clothes that hang inside your abandoned closet. Thank you.
Cindy, that was really sweet. We all have mothers.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's nice. Happy Mother's Day. Yeah, man. Way to go. That was sweet. Yeah, you all were close, of course. And that's nice that you shared that with us. And speaking of which, have you seen any bears lately? By way of my introduction to our next fabulous reader, going to close out the show for us today. Bob Heeman has a new manuscript coming out. Yeah, man. And Bob's giving tours of cave paintings at Lascaux on the side gig for the summer, I heard. Now, okay, let's welcome Bob Heeman.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, folks. Actually, I'm going to read something I never read before. It's the starting poem from my manuscript that's being published by Quality Press in July, called Washing the Wings of the Angels. Information waits for the words to arrive, but there are no words, only birds circling around. Large birds, gulls, too far inland to be normal, as if fleeing the storm the words would certainly bring if they could ever be found. Thank you.
If they can ever be found. Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Zen.
So, but that still wasn't information, Jeff.
Yeah.
But it was information on some level as well.
The best information. The bird is the word, right, guys?
Totally. So also, just to let you know once more, is next 2 weeks from now, we have a fantastic show with Donald Wellman, Buck Downs, Jose Padua, and Erica Miriam Fabry. And thank you so much again. Our wonderful features today: Wang Ping, Jacquelyn Song, Seoyon Kim, and Tina Kane. And to close out, I'm just going to read a little Cavafy poem, which is called In Alexandria, 31 BC. From his village near the outskirts of town, still dust covered from the journey in, the peddler arrives. And incense, gum, the best olive oil, perfume for your hair. He hawks through the streets. But with all the hubbub, the music, the parades, who can hear him? The crowd shoves him, drags him along, knocks him around, and when he asks, now totally confused, what's going on here? Someone tosses him to the huge palace lie that Antony is winning in Greece. Thank you, everyone, for a fantastic show.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ronald, Shira, everybody.
We shall see you next 2 weeks, yeah?
Yeah, Marietta, thank you.
Merry
And-
Mother's Day and all that stuff as well, and lots of love and poetry. And
Go Wheeler.
oh
Go,
yeah,
thank you, everyone. Go
Bing.
Mad Hat. Go Lit
Great
Balm.
event, a great reading.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
Cheers.
you,
Good night.
Jeffrey. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy